Hello and welcome to Economics. We'll be on Unit 3, pages 1 through 2. We're not going to skip anything at all in pages 1 through 2. So you're just going to have to try to keep up a little bit, pause and rewind as you need to. Okay, we're going to be talking about market structure. Again, market is the place where buyers and sellers voluntarily interact, that voluntary exchange. Market structure is talking about categories for the amount of competition that businesses face. And there's kind of a spectrum. There's a lot of different types of markets that can exist from country to country, from location to location. And on one side of it, all the way to the left of the graphic at the bottom, you have when you have the maximum amount of competition. And then all the way to the right is when you have the least amount of competition, and all the power over the market is concentrated in a really small set of hands, or maybe just one set of hands, one company. And there's 4 general categories. There's perfect competition. That's at the far spectrum. When no one has any control over the market, no one person, it's controlled by just demand and supply entirely, and not by greed, or one person's greed, or sneaky tactics, or cheating, or lying. It's all supply and demand. Then you got monopolistic competition, a little less competition, but still a lot. Oligopoly or oligopoly. Oligopoly is when you have multiple people who control all the businesses, but not many. Just like maybe there's only 3 or 4 controlling everything. And a monopoly is one person or one business controls the whole market share. Like all the products are only made by that one person. You can't buy from anywhere else. So let's get into that a little bit. Perfect competition. When you have absolute perfect competition, it's when a market includes so many sellers of a particular good or service that each seller accounts for only a small part of the total market. An example of not perfect competition would be smartphones. Right now, probably about 80% of the market share is controlled by Google, Android, and Apple. Microsoft has got a little piece, and there's other companies that have got a little piece, but it's pretty much dominated by those 2. That's not perfect competition. You'd have to have multiple different types of Apple and Android, all owned by different people, to have perfect competition, and that's what's considered a large market. There's a lot of choices, and independence that is another marker of perfect competition. Everyone's kind of independent of each other. No one's dependent on what everybody else does. You're just looking at what do people want, and you're offering it to them as a buyer. And sellers will have many choices from that, and what they're doing, their decision making isn't really dependent on what anybody else is doing. Easy entry and exit. It's usually really easy to get into the market, and it's really easy to get out of the market if as a buyer or a seller. Easily obtainable information, meaning that you can easily find out about any company at all that you're buying from in a perfect competition. There's no secrets, there's no hidden messages. It's just all the information you could possibly want to know about a product and its seller is available. And finally, all products are nearly identical. You don't have a huge jump in quality from one product to the next. Everything is pretty much the same quality, and you're kind of just picking things based on maybe personal preference and demand, but not because one thing really is better than another. You just, well, I like pink, so I'm buying pink. Pink's not necessarily better than another color or worse. It's just, I like pink, or I like purple, or I like brown. But whatever you're buying is pink, purple, or brown, whether it's bananas or apples or iPods, they're all going to be same quality, almost the same product. So in this perfect world, perfect competition, it's never really existed. But many economic systems aspire to achieve this perfect world. Even if they don't reach it, they want to get as close to it as possible. And it's where total supply and total demand are allowed to interact, to reach the equilibrium price. The equilibrium price is where the demand curve and the supply curve that we talked about before intersect. So we look at them with separate graphs. You can actually put them over each other, and that price point where they match, that's the equilibrium price where quantity demanded actually totally equals quantity supplied. Suppliers aren't making too much, and the buyers are buying everything that's sold. Society benefits. The closer we get to an equilibrium price and perfect competition, we all benefit. One, it keeps costs down. In a perfect world, perfect competition, price is only just a little bit over cost. So only a little bit of profit for each item sold, but then so you don't make as much profit, but you don't have to spend as much to get what you need. There's no big markups because it's the fancy brand. Opportunity costs are minimized because if all the products are pretty much the same, there's not really too much of a loss or a penalty or pain involved with picking the wrong item because there pretty much is no wrong item. And finally, just overall economic efficiency. Resources are being used to their maximum ability because there's no excess or very little excess, very little wasted. Just enough resources are used to make just enough for everybody that actually wants them. Again, this is magic fairy tale land. It doesn't exist. But good economic systems and governments try to get as much of this as possible going. Now there are small micro examples. You won't see a whole country in this perfect world, but sometimes you'll see small markets that are pretty close. Agriculture is one of those. It's a rare example of a perfectly competitive industry in which farmers have little control over the market price of their goods. People are going to pay what they're going to pay for wheat. And there's no name brand wheat or generic name brand wheat. I mean, wheat is wheat. Wherever you buy it, it's just the same. No matter who grows it, it's wheat. So market price is entirely determined by supply and demand. What people actually are eating in wheat, products made from wheat, and what's actually available, which also farmers have very little control over because they can't control things like weather and droughts and stuff like that, or bug invasions. They can try to fight some of these things to a certain extent, but they can't stop them from happening in the first place. So market price is determined entirely not by any seller. Because again, in a perfect competition, no one seller has any control over market price. Whereas a monopoly, only one seller has control over market price. And on that spectrum from the first slide, there's all kinds of a range in between one and nobody. So again, perfect competition, no one seller has any power over market price. And that's it. Don't forget the Edmodo quiz. We'll go immediately to the next video, Unit 3, pages 3 through 6. You will need to watch that and the textbook assignments when you're ready for the quiz. Bye. Or for the test. Excuse me, the test. Bye.